Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, welcome everyone to our Professional Talk Series 2023 episode number 1. So today we are very delighted. We have Darren Chen here in University of Malaysia Pahang in the Faculty of Electrical Engineering. Together with me is Dr. Hamdan bin Daniel. He is the Dean of the Faculty of Electrical Engineering. And today we are delighted to have Darren to talk on a very interesting topic that would assemble or that would set UMP Bosch Rexroth Center playing its parts together with SME. So without further ado, I would like to call upon Darren to kickstart his presentation for today.
Thank you, Dr. Nurul. Also, a very welcome from my side for this driving digital transformation among SME. So I would like to apologize minutes earlier for those who had attended online that we have a bit of a technical glitch over here. But it was a nice moment for me to start a little bit of practice here beforehand for this presentation. So without further ado, I would like to talk about the digital transformation that's happening globally. Yeah, for Bosch, digital transformation and Industry 4.0 is actually one of our strategic pillars for the global business in Bosch. And we take this very seriously, and in the past decade or so, we have already put in a lot of initiatives. So what are those initiatives? I would like to share them in the next video where you get to know better about Bosch Restaurant. I hope you're able to view our presentation slides. Yeah. Is there any audio?
The video has no sound.
Okay.
Okay, with Facebook, with your presentation.
Okay.
We will come back later to
All
show
right.
the video.
Okay. There's some technical issue.
Continue with the slide.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. Thank you for watching the video. Sorry for there's a bit of technical issue that we face here. It is without the sound, but perhaps I can share the video in the next time. But let us first talk about the importance of SME in Malaysia. Yeah. I am pretty sure that all of us know how big of SME in Malaysia, but how big actually SME in Malaysia? As you can see, 97% of total establishments in Malaysia are SME, and altogether they contribute about 38% to the GDP. And from there, they contribute to 48% of the national employment in our total workforce. This is how big SME is in Malaysia. I'm sure that any one of you would have a member of your families, relative, or even friends who have worked in SME before. And I started my career, it also came at the very beginning with an SME, yeah, before progressing further. So it is not exaggerating to say that SME is the backbone of Malaysia's economy. In terms of the manufacturing, for SME, 34% consists of the SME consists in the manufacturing. Yeah, that is a very big proportion that manufacturing is one of the key contributor sectors to the GDP and to the national employment. But what is the current scenario for SME in Malaysia? Are they adopting Industry 4.0 and digital technologies? Are they already ready for it? This is the question that we hope to find some answers today together with all of you. As you can see in the current scenario, most of the larger corporations may have some form of awareness with regards to Industry 4.0 and also digital technologies. But if you look at SME, there could be a very different picture. In the last 2 years or so, uh, I believe the pandemic has helped to accelerate a mindset shift and also the intention coming from SME that more and more SME are aware that digitalization is actually an important topic. However, what we see is the change of the mindset and intention, but possibly there is a big possibility that SME or a majority of them still lack the right information, the right people with the necessary knowledge, and also funds to be able to adopt these digital technologies or Industry 4.0 platform. This is what we are seeing today. So in my subsequent slides later, I will share how we can embrace this together and also how we could overcome some of the barriers that SME may be facing. But first, perhaps let us look again into Industry 4.0. I know this is a buzzword that has been circulating for the past decade or so. It's a very broad term, yeah, when we talk about Industry 4.0. It's happening at consumer industry level, it's also happening at academic level as well as the general industry. But if you look back into the definitions of Industry 4.0, you'll be able to see that it's actually not that complicated. Yeah. In the 18th century, there is no electricity at all and during that time. So most of the energy derived from mechanical or the steam combustion, yeah, to derive the movement of production processes. Moving towards to the 19th century when electricity was discovered, so there's a literal electrification of most of the production and manufacturing. And 20th century is where that is closer to us, where computers were invented, and that begins the seeds of the digitalization process. But what is more interesting is moving to the new millennium, where the digitalization actually moves to the next level. And this is where we are more connected. The machines could talk to each other. So that forms the basis of Industry 4.0. And this term was first coined by the Germans way back in 2011. And for the past decade, digitalization has been evolving already. And there are still a lot of definitions to it, or even some people have different interpretations of the benefits and advantages. But here today, we're not here to go through all the very complex nature of Industry 4.0, but what is important for SME is to see really the simplest benefits of it. Yeah. So if you look at the benefits of Industry 4.0, there are a lot of advantages, but today I would just like to share the core advantages, especially for SME if you adopt uh, digitalization. Definitely, you will see higher productivity because you have available data to be able to see your production processes. And the aim is also to reduce downtime and cost, improve efficiencies, and reduce all the manual processes. When you have data availability, you have transparency and visibility. All this helps to make better decisions in the process. And with better decisions, the corporate management or the owners of the SME are able to find more innovative opportunities. And at the end of the value chain, at the end of the day, this Industry 4.0 or digital technologies would be able to improve revenue, profits, and you have a higher return of investment. So that is the objective of having Industry 4.0. It is not just a fancy buzzword, it is something that is tangible, worth to be invested, but you need a few key elements to be able to drive them forward. And what are those elements that is important, which we will share later? But I've met many owners of SMEs, and they are still hesitant about adopting the technologies that is in the market right now with regards to Industry 4.0. But if we look back through the years, probably like 10 to 15 years ago, I think most of us still go to the bank for banking transactions. Yeah, over the counter, we make withdrawals, we bank in the checks. But today, I think rarely of us go to the bank anymore to make transactions. Everything happens online, whether it's for our personal or corporate transactions. And I wouldn't be surprised the day will come when the ATM machine actually becomes an obsolete item. It will be in the museum instead of in the bank. So this is something that we need to be prepared. Smart devices like smartphones, wearable devices are already part of our life. It's fundamental. And just to put it in a nutshell, my wife used to say to me, "You could forget to bring me out, but you will never forget your smartphone." So this is the kind of the world that is changing today, and this is something that will happen. And with all this change in devices, we need to have connectivity. We need to network with each other. Therefore, software applications came up with the social media platforms that we see today. You have Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, you name it, they have it. In the past, marketing traditionally goes to televisions, goes to magazines and newspaper. But gone are the days traditional marketing is working in this way. The young people, the young consumers, the new consumers are not going to those traditional platforms anymore. And SME has to realize that if they need to market themselves, it is the social media marketing that's going to be working right now. And with social media marketing, how do we monetize from that? It is very important that to find the commercial opportunities. And there you have entrepreneurs that have already started all this through using the e-wallet functions, the Grab Pay, and you have a number of uh, platforms, a website online where you could have the e-retail and e-shop. And during the pandemic, most of us, I'm sure, in one way or the other, have gone online to purchase items. So this will also be the trend that is going to be slowly replacing some of the brick and mortar business. Even if it does not replace, it will be complementing. The e-commerce will be an important business component that complement your business because e-commerce doesn't sleep. It runs 24 hours a day, and the reach is really beyond your brick and mortar shop. You could be selling something to the region in Thailand or in Singapore, not just in Malaysia. So that's about the e-commerce. But SMEs, they may have a question. I am only producing products, or I may be just only distributing products. What does digitalization has to do with me? But if you look at the first four blocks on the slides in the screen, you will see that the consumer industry has taken the lead to transform first because of the new consumer behavior, because of the new technology trend. And the industry in general is always slower than the consumer to follow the lead, but it will come. It's not a question of if, it's the question that it will come. And I believe the SME has to be ready to follow the trends within the consumer industry and the consumer behavior if we SME wish to remain relevant and competitive. And look at countries where you have Singapore, Vietnam, and Thailand, they are all our competitive neighbors. And you will see that their adoption of digital technologies in today, I would dare say that they are still ahead of us. And we have a lot of to catch up on. But what is really the key element today, that the question that I think a lot of SME ask, what will be the real needs to be able to ride on the Industry 4.0 platform? And I would say that there are five key elements to this concept that is important to be able to realize this. And it's not rocket science, it is not a difficult concept to understand. It first starts with connectivity. When you need data, the data has to be connected, whether it is between the machines and equipment that you have, or it is being connected to a platform where you could store the data. Yeah. So this connectivity is very important as a first step towards for Industry 4.0 infrastructure. Number two is definitely data. Without data, there is no Industry 4.0 at all. And in today's world, data is the new oil. It's the new currency of the future that will help business to really grow. Yeah. So how do we get those data and information? Definitely, we will need the hardware, the sensors, and all the automation equipment to be able to collect the data from the from the process that you have for your business or from your manufacturing activity. And the fourth element to it is the cloud. And that is whatever data that you have, big data, to be stored in the cloud for monitoring, for analysis, that you will be able to derive a conclusion out of this data. Because today there are so many data, yeah. And I attended a conference just a week ago in Australia. There is this term named infobesity. You know, obesity is being fat, but infobesity means that there is a huge amount of information that we have every day. But whether this information is it useful for us, how do we make data that is useful for us? So the cloud, that you have a software applications where data are being analyzed and monitored correctly, so that at the end of the day, you need to develop talents. So this is very important. You can have the best and most sophisticated equipment, but if you do not have the talent to be able to drive this process forward, to have the knowledge to operate the machinery or the connectivity, then all the infrastructure that you have will not work. So these are the five key elements that you need: connectivity, data, the hardware, cloud, and definitely the talent to be able to run all these things. While looking deeper into the pain points of the SME industry, I would say that there are many over here. Yeah. And especially in Malaysia, the problem is even more visible to us. when we talk about the pain points of the industry. As you can see, we still have a lot of processes that is still manually recorded. I've been to um, businesses or companies where they are still recording the data in logbooks or in log sheets. So this is not the way to be able to move forward. Yeah. And two, there is still a lot of dependency on labor. Yeah. Unskilled labor, which is what we are targeting here over here. Unexpected machine breakdown, the lack of the visibility of useful data, and not being connected to the ERP, yeah, the enterprise resource platform, is something that is important for SME to look into. And without proper data, it is difficult also to manage the quality. And there is no active visualization on the data, there's no transparency. You have difficulty in inventory management. Yeah. We talk to a lot of people where you could see that SME business, there are still many who record their inventory on a piece of paper, on Excel. So this is not going to work if you are not moving on to RFID or barcode application. And ESG, I think, is one of also a key topic apart from Industry 4.0 today. So we have seen a lot of bigger companies only want to work with smaller companies or SME who are on the same wavelength of them in terms of ESG. That is environment, social, and sustainability topic. Yeah. So with Industry 4.0, companies or SMEs are also able to monitor their energy usage to be more efficient, to be more environmental friendly. So this is a key topic that will come, if not today, but tomorrow. Yeah. And last but not least is definitely we are still much behind in terms of upskilling the needs of the nation for Industry 4.0. This is where uh, more needs to be done. Yeah. So I'll move to smart manufacturing. So this is where the pain point of the industry could be addressed. It is mainly what I have mentioned just now, to be able to have visibility on your production processes, your business activity. All this goes into a cloud where you have the software application to be analyze the data. Because at the end of the day, business owners of SME or the management teams need to have this data to be able to make better informed decisions quickly. If you do not have that today, it is very hard to compete with a lot of other companies in the future. And as we live in a more globalized world, I would say that the SME in Malaysia are not just competing among themselves, we are also competing with countries elsewhere. It could be China, it could be Vietnam, could even be in Singapore as well. So these are the challenges that will come, and the earlier we are prepared, the more ready we are for it. So in this part, I would like to share are we doing it at Bosch Rexroth? How can we overcome some of the pain points of the industry? First, we strongly believe in talent upskilling, education, and training the industry. I am sure that we fly every day for personal or for business reason. And the first thing is that whenever we step into an aircraft today, whether you're sitting on Mars or AirAsia, Singapore Airlines, you do not have. Of course, some people have the fear of flying because of personal reasons, but you do not fear the equipment or the machine of this big piece of metal flying into the air, because it is this machine is state of the art technology. It's been recognized. You know it very well. It is well certified. But if I'm telling you today, with the state of the aircraft, that I am flying this aircraft, will you dare to take this flight? Obviously no, right? Because you trust the person with the necessary training, skill, and knowledge, and that has to be a certified pilot. And in the same sense of Industry 4.0 and digital technology, you can have the best state-of-the-art equipment, but if the SME doesn't invest in people, doesn't hire the right talent, and develop the people with the necessary skills to able to drive the Industry 4.0 initiative within their organization, it will not work. It starts with the people. It starts with education and training. And that is something that the SME has to realize today, because I see that investment in people is the last step that usually SME does. And that is not the right direction. Yeah. And we have to change this. Apart from education, of course, we come back to a very practical direction, that is, what are the products that will be able to help Industry 4.0. And Boss Rexrock here has a very complete solution portfolio where our products are definitely shaping the factory of the future. If you look at the top left, we have a lot of automation platform products in PLC, controller, and drive in this area. And we also have sensors that's able to collect the necessary data, be it the sensors for um, the production cycles, the time cycles, humidity, pressure, temperature. All these data helps in making decisions for the production process. And we have AMR, autonomous mobile robots, or AGVs, that is being used in the intralogistics systems for the warehouse. We have smart conveyors, we have linear modules, and to connect all of them into the software solutions, as well as the collaborative robots. So these are the complete products that we have for Industry 4.0 ecosystem that is needed on the hardware side. And on the software side, we also have a lot of different portfolio of products to cater to the needs of the different SMEs. There are many, but I will not go through today. Definitely, if you need more information, myself and the team will be happy to share with you. But the key thing is, I want to really share with the SMEs and even the fellow students over here, is that Industry 4.0 is not a buzzword anymore. It's not a fancy initiative, or it's not a fancy word that is being put in your business strategy. It is a real need of the world today, because without Industry 4.0, you will not be able to compete in the future. And if you start now, you're able to future-proof your business for years to come. And I would not want to go through this case study monitoring in very detail, but just to give you a real life example, I think this is what SME also wants to hear. How is it being done in the practical way? So this is a use case that we have within the Bosch restaurant facility. As you can see, there's a very small testing machine that we have in our facility. So it's mainly to test the hydraulic pumps, the hydraulic motor, so that they are functioning according to the expected parameters. And this machine is actually very old, it's probably like 15 years ago. And it is not connected, it is not Industry 4.0 ready, it's a legacy machine. But we are able to use our sensors, our equipment, and also our IoT gateway to be able to collect the data, push it to the cloud, and using our uh, performance manager software to analyze the data. And we have competent engineers who are being trained to be able to interpret the data and make better decisions at what they need to do. At the end of the day, if you look at the bottom part of the slide, you will see that This is real case. Yeah, it's not something that is being um, theoretically as some assume. Yeah, this is really real. We are able to save 25% of the maintenance cost annually, and it reduced the complexity of the manual testing time. So we are able to save 20% of the time, and with that, we are able to reduce the manual labor, and the equipment efficiency improved marginally by 5%. And all this equipment and the software that we invested, we get an ROI in less than 1.5 years. So this is a real use example that the SME could consider. So there you go. We start with the equipment and process. We have ways to collect the data and to visualize, to analyze it. And then we have competent people to be able to address the data that we have. But the question today for our SMEs are always what kind of budget that we're looking at? How much do I need to invest? How much in terms of time and financially always, yeah. So for me, I will always suggest the SME to look it in a big picture way that this is a long-term initiative. Start with something small. You don't have to jump into the industry 4.0 in a very big way that you have to completely overhaul your business, process, or manufacturing. Start with areas that is critical for the business. For example, if you think that energy is the biggest cost to your organization, then start monitoring the energy first. Do not go into every aspect of your business. When you have gained leverage and traction in the areas that is important to you, you start to have the confidence. Your people start to have the confidence to be able to move forward and then to build on from there, and you scale up your industry 4.0 solutions. So start small but think big. Yeah. So with that, I basically covered most part of the SME digital transformation. I hope that gives you an idea what SME could possibly and potentially do going forward. And next, in the last few minutes, I would just like to share a little bit about Bosch Restaurant. Where do we really come from, and what do we really do in our business? Yeah. So this is an interesting slide that I like to usually show the audience that you see. You see on your left, you will see that this is our very old logo. Rexrock is actually the surname or the last name of our founder. So Mr. Rexrock founded this in 1795. So that's how old Rexrock it is. We are already 200 over years old of company, uninterrupted, yeah, that we have evolved through the years. So they started with iron ore foundry before moving to steel making and hydraulics. And of course, automation came in before we moved to the digitalization era. So it all started in a very small town in Germany called Lohr am Main. Any of you have heard of this town before? Have you ever heard of the story Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? I'm sure this is something that either you or your kids have heard before. So, this story of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs actually originated from this town, Lower am Main. And you get a chance to visit this town, you're able to see there's a castle built for this story. Of course, you don't see the Snow White living there anymore, yeah? And the Seven Dwarfs as well. But this is to say the heritage of this town. Um, the headquarter of Restaurant still sits in this town. It's a very small town with 10,000 people, but can you imagine out of the 10,000 people, 4,000 people are working for Restaurant. So when I was there last year, every corner, street or shop, I'm bound to bounce into one of the Restaurant colleagues over there. So it's a very interesting place, and this is where it all began. And today in Malaysia, Bosch in Malaysia has established its first presence since 1923 with his first manufacturing, with his first sales office, yeah, in Malaysia, and then start establishing their factories in 1972. So this year, we are actually celebrating our 100 years of anniversary in Malaysia. So that is a big milestone for Bosch now. So just a snapshot of who we are in terms of the numbers. So the Bosch Group globally have about close to 78 billion euros with revenue, and we employ more than 400,000 people globally. We have more than 400 subsidiaries and regional branches, yeah, in throughout more than 60 countries. And for Bosch Rexroth itself, which is the industrial business unit within the Bosch Group, we contribute 8% to the revenue, which is about 6 billion euros, and we hire more than 30,000 associates globally as well. And for Bosch Rexroth Malaysia, our team is actually headquartered in Shah Alam, Selangor, and we also have a branch office in Penang. And as you can see in the slide, the key industries that we focus in are quite a long list of it. And we have a small production location within the Shah Alam for our hydraulic assembly, but we are actively involved in industrial hydraulics, factory automation, and the digital business. So if you have any questions or further comments that you would like to approach us, please feel free to do so to approach myself and the team. And I'm very, very much happy to share with you. Yeah. That'll be the end of my presentation today. I hope that gives you an idea what Bosch Rexroth about, and to give more confidence to SME in Pahang and also in Malaysia to look more deeper into the digitalization topics. Yeah. With that, I will end my presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Sekian, terima kasih. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Darren. It was a very refreshing and very interesting presentation that you had just now. I have a few questions here, if
Sure.
it's okay. So, Rexroth being the leading player in terms of control and drive,
Yeah.
what are the challenges that you see in these 5 years time?
Thank you, Dr. Nurul, for your question. What we do see that in terms of the drive and control technologies, it is mainly still conventionally, uh, I would say, dominated by the few key players. Yeah, that you know that I don't mention the names here, but the German players, the European players, the US and Japan are the key players in the drive control and PLC market. But most of them are still very close in terms of their programming architecture, each having their own what's the word to use, their their, uh, their own programming language that is patented, right? And but in today's world, drive and control technologies are more challenging because we have many different other ecosystems that is attached to this drive and control technology. What we need is the more open platform, and in terms of that, Bosch Rexroth is also moving into this area where we have the Control X controller that is almost like a smartphone that is able to download different apps and connect to different players. For example, our Control X, we could connect to different sensor players. We could control with other complementary drive as well of other brands. So what we want to do here is to have an open architecture, an open operating system that is using Linux at the moment to be able to embrace other players into the ecosystem, just like what the consumer industry is doing now with the smartphone technologies.
The second question here. So, well, inshallah, UMP, I mean, together with Bosch, we are setting up this UMP Bosch Academy. So, from industry point of view, what is your hope for this academy?
That's a good question. I think we have a lot of expectations to this academy because, as I've said earlier in my presentation, that Industry 4.0 and digital technologies doesn't start with the infrastructure first. It doesn't start with the equipment because many companies have it do it this way. But actually, it should be in reverse because the education and the training and upskilling is the most important. Yeah. So with this academy, I believe it will definitely be able to train a wide range of peoples and students in adopting the mindset of Industry 4.0 that will definitely change the landscape of the education industry in Malaysia.
Yeah. One of the notes that I note here just now, you mentioned that it is also important for the student to get the feel of the real equipment. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we can always, I mean, being in academia, one of the things that we like to emulate, for example, using open source to emulate the real industry applications. But at one point, it is important for the students to have the feel so that they can catch up with what are the requirements in the industry, right? You agree with that?
Exactly, exactly. I think you made a very good point over here that uh, the academy that UMP has now is being equipped with the MMS 4.0,
Mm.
which is the Bosch Rexrock Industry 4.0 key teaching tool equipment. And this is actually born out of Bosch own manufacturing process. It's not something that is purposely developed for the academia, but it's actually a machine that is part of our production process.
Mm.
Of course, we have made some customizations with to better equip it to tailor to the needs of the academy as well. But this is as close as to what we have in the Bosch production process and manufacturing facility because we wanted it to be as real and as practical as possible for the students to be able to look into it. Once, I mean, any students will have been trained using the MMS 4.0 equipment. When they go out to the real world, to the real factory, they wouldn't be surprised. It is exactly the same thing that they will face.
Okay, thank you. Final question. In terms of the industry in Malaysia, how do you see, how ready are they in embracing this full-fledged IR 4.0 as in Germany, as you mentioned just now?
Well, that is a difficult question because I think before the pandemic, the mindset shift wasn't there. There is still a lot of businesses or institutions that is very hesitant to adopt Industry 4.0 technologies. Um, but the pandemic, in a good or bad way, it helps to really accelerate the shift or the paradigm in terms of the mindset that people start to notice that digitalization is really an important key topic. And today, uh, I'm happy to see that in Malaysia, most of the business institutions have this awareness, they have this intention, but the next step is really the execution part, the implementation part, where they need the knowledge. Again, we go back to the needing the talent, the competent people, and of course, this works in both the private and government sectors. In terms of funding, and also in terms of preparing the infrastructure, because Industry 4.0 is what we need now. But already we have people talking about Industry 5.0, where 5G is coming. So if we are not implementing Industry 4.0, we'll be very late for the Industry 5.0.
Okay, okay. So from on behalf of University Malaysia Pahang, I would like to thank you and also the attendees for today. And one thing for sure that I learned today is that I only know that Snow White is a German. Okay, so thank you again. Hope to see you this afternoon for the launching of UMP Bosch Rex Ross Academy. Okay,
Thank
thank
you very
you.
much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.